Okay, now dip your net in and see if you can grab one. Okay, you got some! I want to turn.
I want to tell you about this one time when I went on a fishing trip. It was the 8th grade class trip of 2022. It was a gorgeous spring day in Alaska, and we set out for the stunningly beautiful drive to Homer. It was extra sunny here in Alaska in the spring, and the trip started out perfectly. We stopped for some lunch in Soldotna. We played some glow-in-the-dark mini golf and a bunch of other games.
Yes.
We even spent some time enjoying an art museum. Those first few hours of our trip were packed with interesting things. Then we arrived in Homer. That place has some incredible views. It was perfect. The snow was still on the mountains and the sun was out. I have not done very much fishing and I've never gone on a chartered trip. So as I took in the view, I felt that this might just be the best place in the world to take my first fishing trip. The fishing trip was booked for day 2, and the fun for day 1 wasn't over just yet. So we hit the spit. We wandered the beach, and we browsed the shops. We spent that night at the Homer Seventh-day Adventist Church, and the next morning, it was time to go fishing. It had already been a great trip, but I was excited for day 2 because I knew that the main activity was yet to come. We made our way to the boat and got settled in, looking distinctly Alaskan. And then the captain calmly gave us this warning.
It is going to be a little bit sporty today. It won't be terrible, but it could get a little rough for some people. So if you do feel seasick, please do not do it in here or in the bathroom. It's not fair to everybody else that they get locked out of the bathroom. If you're not feeling good, just go outside, do it on the deck. We can get you trash bags, stuff like that.
That was the warning. It's going to be a bit sporty. It could be rough for some people. But then he reassured us by telling us his number one goal.
My number one goal is to make sure you guys don't get sick and go to a fun place where we can fish and have a good time. So just understand that's my goal at the end of the day.
And that's a great goal, to make sure no one gets sick. And with that, we were off. We are so blessed in Alaska with beautiful and meaningful things to do in nature. After leaving the harbor, we learned what the captain meant by a bit sporty. It was rough out there. I joined a few others who were in the front, and I was loving it.
Guys, he will splash you if he can. Hey, it's okay. That's good stuff. All right, have fun. Oh, we got crazy.
It turns out that not everyone was loving it.
Someone a bloody nose? Vomit. Yeah.
When I visited the cabin, I found most of the group sick. I felt bad for them, but I also felt grateful that apparently sporty water didn't bother me. Now, outside of the cabin was wet and cold.
Gets a little wet there.
Some of us were still loving it,
What's up? Oh.
and others weren't. Then something happened. I don't have any video of the next hour and a half or so. I don't even remember what I did with my camera. I just remember getting sick. And it sounds a bit wimpy to say now, but I focused all my energy just on surviving. The problem was that if I went into the cabin, it was warmer and it would make me want to vomit. So I would be surrounded by people and I didn't want to get stuck in there. So I chose to go outside, but remember outside was cold and wet. I hung over the side of the boat, holding on to the rail, getting soaked and shivering. I chose not to take Dramamine that morning when it was offered to everyone because this was my first time and I didn't know if I got seasick or not, and I kind of wanted to find out. Well, I found out. Finally, the captain shut down the motors and we stopped to fish. I thought that would make things better, but it really didn't.
I think I'm past feeling okay.
I did find my camera again, and part of the group started feeling better, and even were able to enjoy the fishing.
Want the baby by the table, or what do you want, baby? Hi!
Oh, hold on, you wait for me?
I was not feeling better, but I knew that it was a special opportunity, so I tried my very best to pull myself together and do some fishing. Someone got a picture of me. There it is, my big, tough fisherman pose. I really thought that I was standing up straight and looking normal, and I wasn't. It was a rough fishing trip. The message today is about fish, specifically how fish speak of their creator. The point is not that fishing is a terrible thing. In fact, when I was on that miserable trip, I looked around me and saw a whole lot of people having a lot of fun. For you, maybe fishing and processing fish was a highlight of your summer. It can be a positive, wonderful experience. When I think of my miserable fishing trip, I'm reminded of this amazing thing that God does. In the place of our struggle and our misery, there's something good, because God is good, and all the things that He's created are good. And we can look to those places where we had a really hard time and know that there's something to learn of God. There might have even been something to enjoy. If I had concluded that fishing was a terrible thing because of my one bad trip, then I would risk that I would miss out on all the future enjoyment I might have fishing and the ways that those experiences can teach me about God. There are wonderful spiritual lessons we can learn from fish. Just ask one of our 3rd or 4th graders here at Amazing Grace Academy. They're starting off the school year studying fish, and they'll tell you about the ways God made them so incredible and how they reflect their Creator. So that's what we're going to study today. Our study guide this week highlights 3 ways that fish speak of their Creator.